right now in DeKalb, Georgia, DeKalb County, Georgia. Actually, I guess you'd call it Atlanta, Georgia. But it's DeKalb County. We're at the water purification system here, and we've working here today and tomorrow. We're doing some training with the county employees here, and looking good. We just also came from a session down near Forsyth, Georgia. We've been working with the Champs, which is the Highway Safety Patrol. They basically help stranded motorists and that kind of thing for Georgia DOT, and they all have chainsaws. And the new employees, we go through a basic chainsaw day with them so they can kind of understand the equipment that they have, and then also look at some different planning processes and safety apparel and that kind of thing that's necessary. And so we did that yesterday, and then came up here and had a day here in DeKalb County, and then tomorrow we've got a group for a demonstration with the county employees from the water. So looking forward to that. Hope you've got good signal tonight, and also sound. Hopefully everybody can hear. Somebody let me know. I'd greatly appreciate it. Looks like everything seems to be working. We'll just wait and see if anybody signs on. The question last week that we had was concerning top-handled chainsaw use. Hey, David Vossler, how are you tonight? And let me know if you hear everything okay, can see everything okay. I think we got pretty good internet service here. But we started a little bit of a discussion over top-handled one-handed chainsaw use. So I was wondering if we want to continue on that conversation this evening. Anybody has a question or their opinion as far as top-handled saw use. And it's always an interesting topic to get involved with. But been doing quite a lot, putting together some video shorts and those kinds of things, and I've got those on a time schedule to be posting out, and hopefully be something to interest those around. If you know of anybody who hasn't seen the YouTube site yet, please pass it along to them and ask them to subscribe. We're growing pretty fast, and I'd like to touch as many people as possible. But it's a slow go, but hopefully the stuff we're posting is worthwhile and everybody's getting something out of it. These shorter versions I'm not quite used to yet, but I'm cutting and pasting and trying to get them down concise to get the points across. And really, I think it's a pretty good video system. So, well, great, David. Thank you for that. So we're sounding good and pictures good. So we'll see who shows up tonight. But that's kind of the process that we've been going through. And also I've got the last episode, I guess you'd call it, from the audio session I've been doing on our ebook series, which we've been selling that for years, since about 2002, I guess, on Barnes & Noble ebook series, and also off our website. And I've turned the several sessions of our podcast series, which is on Anchor Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, just about all the podcast providers. If you haven't checked that out, you can be able to follow that on your phone, and it's pretty cool to be able to listen to it while you drive or work or whatever. And just look up or search for Along the Four Staps Road or Tim Ard, and it should come up, and then you can just subscribe to it. It's no charge, and I've got a lot of different interviews on there, as well as I've been putting each chapter of the ebook on there. And I just finished up chapter 18. That's the last one that has any I guess you'd say wording to it. We've the last two is 20 chapters in the book, but the last two are just definitions and different aspects of the follow-up. So all of it is complete now, and I also plan to put together a single audio book series on it, or an audio book on it. now that I've got all that read in, it took me quite a while. Each chapter is about anywhere from about 7 to 20 minutes, so it takes a while to get through all the 18 chapters. But it's pretty neat. I haven't read through it all. I read through a million times when we were getting it ready to publish. Mike Boland, he was the state forester in Illinois, helped me put it together. He's kind of an English major as well as forestry, and he did an excellent job going down through and correcting a lot of my Southern English, I guess you'd say. And so the process there took a long time, and I went through it many hours. But going back through it, it's quite interesting. I've jaunted my memory about a lot of things that we have in the book. So it's a little bit focused to logging, a little bit to firewood, but it applies just about anybody. It's a complete guide to chainsaw safety and directional felling. So you might want to check that out. And so that's kind of what I got finished up over last weekend, and we headed down this way. And so it's pretty neat. I'm getting pretty decent at, I think, doing the different editings on the videos and the sound stuff. So hopefully it's coming across pretty good. But I've been doing a lot with Georgia DOT and the Georgia LTAP program here over the past few weeks. We've always done a lot over the years with Georgia LTAP, which is the Local Technical Assistance Program. And if you're part or working with a city or county and in some state agencies, the LTAP program, or T-squared in some states, is available to train local workers on anything from flagging to asphalt to mowing, the chainsaw, all kinds of different topics that are available. So if you're an employee of a city, or county, or state, you might want to check into that. It's free or greatly subsidized in most of the states. Each state is basically funded by the Department of Transportation, Federal Department of Transportation, and each state has a directorship, which some states have two. Most of it's through either a college or university that handles it, or either a DOT, Department of Transportation, for the state. And in Georgia, it's the DOT that handles putting it together. We work in several states with it, Mississippi and Kentucky and South Carolina, and worked a lot up in over the years in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, up through there. And it's a pretty neat program for employees of cities and towns, and it offers a lot of resources in that aspect. So you might want to check that out. But any comments on one-handed chainsaw use? I've put together a couple little videos on it. We had I guess the weekend before last, I got with David Breeden from Husqvarna. He's the North Georgia representative, and we put together a little podcast on the use of one-handed chainsaws, and he feels the same way I do, that it should be avoided if at all possible. I know there's some situations where people extend, but sometimes overextend. And I had a person sent me a message and said, what are these new rules and regulations on one-handed chainsaw operation? And it's not actually a new rule. I was telling him it's been around since the 80s, early 80s. A lot of major tree care companies, more or less, they made one-handed operation a reason for, I guess you'd say, loss of employment, because there's so many injuries that took place with chainsaw cuts and things with one-handed operation. You get tired. It's not only just the reactive forces of kickback and push and pull, it's also the factor of fatigue that gets involved. And so it's hard to be able to maintain control of the saw one-handed. And then two, people get to where they start kind of, I call it slicing and dicing, is taking and holding a limb or whatever, and then cutting it off, holding on to it. And there's many ways that can be done with that, with straps or rigging of different type. Smaller stuff can be cut in smaller pieces and dropped. But whether you're climbing or working out of a bucket, a top handle saw is a great tool because it evens out the weight load on the arms. The one-handed operation or long-handled saw puts a lot of weight onto your holding arm, your left arm, and so it fatigues faster. So the actual idea of a top-handled saw is to make it compact, to be able to maneuver it easily in tighter conditions, and to be able to keep both hands on the two handles, and basically evens out the weight load to reduce fatigue. So that's what it is. And David, he said, what he feels is that there's no two-handed, no one-handed chainsaw, because every chainsaw has two handles on it. I did have somebody bring up the fact of some of these new pruning saws, I guess you would call them. And so there's several different manufacturers that have come up with them, and a lot of people are finding them, real cute little devices. And I guess there may be pretty maneuverable and smaller to be able to handle, just pruning jobs and stuff. But even looking at that, I know on the one from Steel I was looking at, it has a place for your left hand on top of the unit, and then your right hand on the control handle. So basically it's not one-handed operation. It still should be controlled with two hands, but the handle is just a grip on top of the unit. And then I've seen some of them that didn't have it that way, and I think those are kind of going against some of the thought processes that I have anyway, as far as being able to maintain control and stay away from that moving chain. Some of them do have guards over the top of the bars, which are very short bars, but it's something to where there's still the capability of it getting in contact with a hand or leg or foot or whatever it might be, operating that. So kind of where it is. So looking for any questions or comments on those kinds of things. And then one other thing too that I've been working on here is just going down through some of the basics on chainsaw planning. And we have 5-step plans we've been using for years, and trying to get those across in some different aspects. And I've had some really good comments coming in when we put together a little video on it in the next couple weeks, looking at really concentrating on a couple aspects of that 5-step plan. So anyway, that's kind of the thought process. I had a couple messages this week. There's more of the Hexa Chain is showing up at different dealerships around, and don't know if anybody has come across any of it. The files evidently are still pretty scarce out in the field, but more of the chain loops are beginning to show up. And right now everybody's saying a little bit pricey, and I'd have to agree with that. But it is something I think that as volumes get out there, it should start to level out a little bit. But it's going to be a slow process as far as people picking it up, trying it, and using it over the next few months. And be interesting to see what the thoughts are on those types of things. I'm about got everything set up. I'm going to be trying something a little bit different. I've got a phone line set up, and I hope to be starting a more or less a question chat live on the Thursday night saws here over the next 3 or 4 weeks. So I'm trying to get all the connections that I need to get that together. I've got it pretty well set up, and so it's going to be available to do that. I had that number. See if I can find that thing. I have it on my desk there at home. Yeah, it's going to be 706-901-7297. And so I'll have that hooked up to my system, and we'll be able to take calls, and also be able to put voicemail on record, and then be able to play those back. So be able to have some live questions going on. So nothing in Saranac Lake yet then on the chains. I had the dealer I was at in Bath, New York. They had the chain loops but no files. So I know they're going out to some areas in New York. My pen quit working here too. That 706, I'll put it in here so I've got it for next time. 901-7297, and that's 706-901 saws, SAWS. So that'll be available for our chat line coming up in the near future. So hopefully that works out. The number is good now, but I don't have it hooked through the system unless I'm in the office. So I will have it portable as soon as I get all of the cable that I need. I'll go ahead and put that on there so we can try it out here in a couple weeks. I had one question yesterday in the class. It seems to come up quite often. I've noticed some different videos on it also, and that's a lot of people are asking questions about 40-to-1 or 50-to-1 fuel mix. And the place that I was at yesterday, they pretty much 100% using bottled gas, canned gas fuels, and they used the True Fuel. And they also had some of the SEF fuel, I guess, that they had in some of the cases. But I had about 9 or 10 guys with Champs, and so they have their cases set up with all their saws ready to go, and they've gone completely to the bottled gas. And the supervisors and a couple of guys were asking, which should they use, 40 to 50 to 1, and there's not going to be a whole lot of difference there. You could probably even run a little bit thinner, as long as you keep the saws adjusted properly. Where the mixture really comes in to play is according to the gasoline that you're using. And I've made that comment many times. There's a lot of variations in the fuels around in pump gas. And so even if you go with non-ethanol, you still have different additives and agents in there that more or less are tailored to the automotive industry. And so it affects the time of the year, volatility of it, how long it's been stored, whether it's been oxygenated. All of that type of stuff plays a big factor with how it mixes with your oils. But with the canned gas, you pretty much eliminate that situation. Canned gas is more or less a synthetic blend of oil, and it's also kind of a synthetic blend of fuel, gasoline. And so it stays mixed. It doesn't separate. It's usually not as much moisture absorbing because it doesn't have ethanol in it. And so it's a lot easier to keep it stabilized. But they do produce the two different ones a lot because of trying to appease the manufacturers that are out there. Some of them suggest the 40, some suggest the 50, but it's not as critical, I guess you would say. And Dave, you got a sample of the Aspen premix, and been using that in Sweden for years, just starting to try it. Yeah, I first saw the Aspen fuel, I believe it was exactly the same stuff. The dealers had it in Sweden and Finland back in 1989. Soren and I, we were on a tour going to some dealerships and forestry consulates, and just about every dealer had Aspen premix fuel. And so now in the past, 3 or 4 years, I guess, it hasn't been too long, Aspen is starting to bring it to the States, and they have the fuel premix and then also a biodegradable bar oil. And I had samples of I've got samples of both of those. I've used the oil, the chain and bar oil, and I've used most of the premix fuel, and it is a very clean burning fuel. I got started, and you can look at a couple weeks ago, I guess I went through the whole story as far as how I got started with the True Fuel, but that was really the first one that started to really market in the United States. And so then shortly after that, the Moto Mix, which has been around a long time, still had it in Europe and other countries, and started after True Fuel got started, really started to bring the Moto Mix into the States. And so it really started to grow after that. And now Aspen has got involved with it. They've got some good distributors set up and all. But it's there's a lot of 2-cycle products out there, and so it's going to take 2 or 3 suppliers to keep everything going here. But yeah, it's very very clean running, and seems to do pretty good as far as lubrication for the saws. So, and they're really pushing it in the marketplace. So, but I've been using the canned gas now for many years, at least I guess 15-16 years, and it's so much more consistent. I haven't had any issues with carburetors, diaphragms, sludge, everything. I really don't even run it out of the units. I haven't, which I probably don't let anything sit more than about 6 months there on the units around the house. But I've never had any problems at all with the canned gas, and so it's really the way to go. And like I say, they started that in Sweden and Finland back years ago because of the fumes. They were taking and running exhaust systems past the operators and back out, kind of like you see on some of the hot sauce setups in the States. They were doing that in the woods, trying to keep the fumes away from the operator. And the aspen gas was basically formed to burn without really any carcinogenic type of situations. And that's what they were fighting, in Europe at that time. And so a lot of things with, from what I understand, I'm not a specialist on it, but the benzenes and those kinds of things, the MTBEs and those kind of things that were used to oxygenate fuels in the United States tended to be a possibility of different types of bodily harm, I guess you'd say. So it's something where the aspen fuels kind of picked that up and ran with it in Europe, and it's good to see them coming, as well as the true fuels and the racing fuels that are coming about with SEF and that kind of thing. So it's a good thing. Yeah, well, folks, if there's not any other questions, just kind of giving a little update, and got an early start in the morning, so I'm going to sign off of here, and I'll leave the hard copy on the site that we've gone over here tonight. And if you do have any other questions or anything, you can email them to info@forestapps.com, and next Thursday we'll be back, and I think I'll be next Thursday, maybe coming back from a session down in around Milledgeville, Georgia. But we'll try to get online about 8, and so if there's any things that come up. But if not, y'all have a great week, and I wish you all good sawing. And please check out the new YouTubes as they come through, and also you can sign up for the podcast series. So check it out. Good sawing to you. Talk to you later. Good night.